In Los Angeles, the city that has faced fire after fire and rebuilt each time, the latest tragedy has left deep scars, not just on the hillsides, but on the hearts of those who called them home. Today, California Governor Gavin Newsom stood before reporters and grieving residents, acknowledging a rare moment of relief: the arrest of a suspect believed to be behind the deadly Los Angeles fire that has devastated communities across the region. But this was not a triumphant press conference. It was somber, a reminder that closure for many remains elusive. Newsom, standing at a local school where survivors gathered, spoke with a mix of empathy and frustration. He praised the progress in the investigation, but did not hold back his anger toward Washington. There are a lot of theories, a lot of thoughts, a lot of conspiracies as well out there, Newsom said. Hopefully this brings some clarity. His tone suggested more than just relief. It carried exhaustion, the weight of years battling fires, bureaucracy, and now political apathy. The Los Angeles blaze, one of the deadliest in recent memory, consumed entire neighborhoods, flattening over 10,000 homes and displacing tens of thousands of residents. Families who once lived in the sunlit suburbs of Ventura and San Bernardino counties now find themselves living in temporary shelters or relying on friends and relatives for a roof over their heads. Newsom's words resonated with them. "I hope it gives some closure," he continued, "as it relates to the anxiety so many have felt. How did this happen? Who's responsible? Can this happen again?" He paused before adding, "It's cold comfort for those who lost their homes." That line, cold comfort, seemed to hang in the air. For those listening, it summed up the California paradox, a state that prides itself on resilience, but constantly finds itself fighting the same disasters again and again. Over the past decade, California has spent billions on wildfire prevention and emergency response, yet the fires keep coming, more frequent, more intense, more unpredictable. Scientists blame climate change and decades of mismanaged forest policy. Others point to aging infrastructure, inadequate evacuation systems, and increasingly arson. The suspect in the Los Angeles case, authorities say, had a history of reckless behavior. Investigators tracked him for weeks, using drone footage and witness testimony to link him to the ignition points. When the arrest was finally made, many victims said they felt a mix of relief and rage. Relief that someone was caught, rage that so much destruction could come from a single act. Governor Newsom acknowledged that emotion too. "We need to really call out," he said, his voice tightening, "why the President of the United States and Congress have refused to provide support to those victimized by this devastation." It was a rare direct attack from a sitting governor on the federal administration. Newsom's criticism of President Donald Trump's response was sharp and deliberate. The Biden administration, he noted, had initiated much of the groundwork for investigations and early disaster aid programs before Trump took office. But according to Newsom, those efforts were abandoned. "I applaud the work initiated under the Biden administration in this investigation," he said, "but I find it shameful that they haven't done a damn thing for the thousands of people who lost their homes." The crowd erupted in murmurs. Some clapped, others shook their heads. For many, politics had already turned their tragedy into a national talking point. But Newsom seemed intent on keeping the focus on accountability. Behind him, banners displayed the names of neighborhoods destroyed in the fire: Silver Lake, Highland Park, Topanga, and Echo Mountain. Rows of photos showed homes reduced to ash, children holding charred toys, and volunteers handing out food. The visual reminder was impossible to ignore. Los Angeles, the global capital of entertainment, was also becoming a symbol of environmental vulnerability. Over the next several minutes, Newsom shifted from politics to policy. He outlined a state relief plan, including temporary housing grants, small business recovery loans, and tax relief for affected families. But he warned that state efforts would never be enough without federal support. "This is not just a California problem," he insisted. "When California burns, America breathes the smoke." That statement drew quiet nods from the audience. Across the country, wildfire smoke from California has darkened skies in states as far away as New York. The economic toll has rippled through industries from tourism to agriculture. Still, the governor's frustration with Washington underscored a familiar political tension, one that has defined his relationship with President Trump since the early days of his administration. The two men have clashed repeatedly over climate policy, immigration, and federal aid distribution. Today's remarks only added fuel to that fire. But beyond the politics, the press conference also carried an emotional core. Standing beside Newsom was Jennifer Siebel Newsom, California's first partner. She listened quietly, her eyes scanning the crowd of survivors and first responders. Her presence was both symbolic and deeply personal. She has long championed mental health recovery for disaster victims, especially children. The fire's human toll has been staggering. Dozens of confirmed deaths, hundreds injured, and entire communities displaced. Local hospitals remain stretched thin, still treating victims for burns and smoke inhalation weeks after the fire. Aid centres are overwhelmed. At a nearby community shelter, volunteers described heartbreaking scenes, families searching for lost pets, seniors sitting silently with nothing but a small suitcase, children asking when they can go home. The Los Angeles Fire Department has called this blaze the most complex arson-driven disaster in state history. The suspect's motives remain unclear, but authorities believe it may have involved financial disputes or ideological grievances. Meanwhile, the rebuilding effort has barely begun. Insurance claims have reached record levels and construction materials are scarce. With inflation driving up costs, many residents fear they will never afford to rebuild. Newsom's team has pledged to cut through red tape and expedite rebuilding permits. Still, the process could take years. In Paradise, in the Northern California town destroyed by the 2018 Camp Fire, many survivors are still waiting for their homes to be rebuilt. Los Angeles may face a similar long road ahead. Throughout his speech, Newsom returned repeatedly to the idea of responsibility. "We have to learn from this," he said. "We cannot normalize this level of devastation." His message was clear. Prevention, not just punishment, must define California's future. He highlighted new initiatives, including satellite-based early detection systems and the expansion of fire-resistant building codes. He praised firefighters and first responders who risked their lives so others could live, calling them the truest heroes of California. Yet even as he spoke of rebuilding, there was an unmistakable undertone of grief. For every new program or promise, there were faces in the crowd still mourning the lives and memories lost. In one poignant moment, a survivor stood up and shouted, "We just need help, now." The governor paused, then responded softly, "You're right, and we're going to fight to make sure you get it." That brief exchange encapsulated the day, pain and determination intertwined. Over the next several hours, Newsom toured damaged neighborhoods, meeting with firefighters and local leaders. Cameras followed as he hugged residents, inspected burnt ruins, and promised that California will rise again. But he also made a point to remind the nation of what's at stake. "If we can't protect Los Angeles," he said, "what does that say about our ability to protect any community in America?" Experts have echoed that warning. Fire scientists note that rising temperatures and prolonged droughts have created a megafire era, blazes that behave with unprecedented intensity. Urban expansion into forested areas has only made the risk worse. The Los Angeles arson has reignited debate over the federal government's role in disaster management. While the Trump administration has promised to review federal priorities, no concrete relief package has been announced. Critics argue that partisan politics continue to paralyze Washington's response. Environmental groups, meanwhile, have seized on the moment to demand more climate action. The Sierra Club and Greenpeace issued statements urging federal investment in renewable energy and stricter environmental regulations. For Gavin Newsom, the Los Angeles fire represents both a tragedy and a test of leadership, empathy, and political courage. His remarks today reflected all three. He ended his address with a message that combined resolve with defiance. "We've been through this before, and we'll go through it again," he said. "But every time we come back stronger. What breaks us today will build us tomorrow." The crowd applauded, not because the pain was over, but because for the first time in weeks, someone in power seemed to share it. Outside the event, the air still smelled faintly of smoke. The horizon was hazy, the sun a dull orange disk over the city. Fire trucks rumbled past as cleanup crews cleared debris from once bustling neighborhoods. In interviews afterwards, survivors expressed cautious hope. "It's good that someone's been arrested," one resident said, standing near the blackened remains of her home. "But we need more than arrests. We need answers." That sentiment, more than any political soundbite, defined the mood in Los Angeles. Justice may be coming, but healing will take far longer. As night fell over the city, the skyline glowed dimly through the haze, a fragile reminder that even in devastation, Los Angeles endures. Gavin Newsom's words will echo long after the cameras leave. This isn't just about one fire. It's about how we respond as a nation when our people need us most. And that perhaps is the truest message, not of anger, but of accountability. California burns, America breathes. But what America does next will determine whether it learns or simply waits for the next spark.
Folks, make our kids healthy. Food should not make our kids sick.
There are many individuals here today who will be addressing you. Breakfast, meals, or lunch, or snacks as anybody else.
I've long believed in this, and that journey, of course, accelerated, as is often the case when you have kids. I was leading an international effort on the slow foods movement, and they did a big international conference in San Francisco where we converted the stripes. And I'll close on this. It's a movement that we have a requirement to advance. To reduce healthcare costs. It's also a component part of CalRx at the Department of Public Health to identify what are currently thousands and thousands and thousands. This actually occurred. There are a lot of theories, a lot of thoughts, a lot of conspiracies as well out there. And so hopefully this lands some clarity in that respect. Beyond that, I hope it gives some closure as it relates to some of the anxiety that may have been felt. How did this happen? Who's responsible? Can this happen again? What lessons can we learn? So at least from that perspective, a little bit of closure. That said, it's cold comfort for those who lost their homes and are coming through the recovery. What I do say is that we need to really now, I think, call out why the President of the United States and Congress has refused to provide support to those that have been victimized by this arsonist and this devastation. $39 billion in the United States. I applaud the work that initiated under the Biden administration in this investigation and the work that this administration did as it relates to finding this person and ultimately pushing these charges and making these charges. But I find it shameful that they haven't done a damn thing for the thousands of people who lost their homes and whose lives were devastated from this disaster. Not a word from the President of the United States.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.